What's the first thing you notice here? For me, it's all the trash. Since I started living a low-waste lifestyle over 2 years ago, I can't help but notice how everything around us is made of or wrapped in material that will soon become garbage. I'm Izzy. I'm 25 years old, and I've cared about the environment ever since I can remember. But in the past couple of years, that care has turned into something worse. Fear, anxiety, and even depression. I'm so concerned about the future of our planet that I can't stop thinking about it every single day. I've made a lot of changes in my life to reduce my impact on the environment, with a focus on producing less trash. And while this has helped with my eco-anxiety a little bit, I feel like I need to do something more. So I've made this series to educate people on actual easy steps to take to limit our environmental impact, to help our shared planet before it's too late. The average American produces around 1,700 pounds of trash per year. That's around 3 times the global average, and honestly, it's infuriating. We've gotten so used to a life of convenience and consumerism that we're turning the planet into a landfill. Studies estimate that around 9 billion tons of plastic have been produced since the 1950s, all of which still exist and will continue to exist, poisoning our environment. Though large companies undoubtedly contribute the most to the world's waste and pollution problem, I believe the first step we can take as individuals is to change our own lifestyles in the hopes that corporations and governments will be forced to take the hint. In the 2.5 years that I've lived on Cape Cod, I've realized that it's not easy to be low waste in a small town. But I've met a few inspiring people who are living low impact lifestyles and advocating for change. Meet my coworker Emily, who recently started living a lower impact lifestyle.
I'm very concerned about climate change and pollution. I think that it is a very big issue right now. I'm a reporter and I do a lot of stories locally about pollution, such as our oceans, our water quality, trash on the side of the road. It is a very big issue that I feel we see a lot in the media, but I'm still just not seeing enough action being taken on it.
One local organization trying to make a difference in policy is Sustainable Practices. The group's founder is a badass PhD named Madhavi.
Hi, I'm Madhavi Venkatesan. I'm the Executive Director for Sustainable Practices. I'm also an economist. I teach at Northeastern University, and I focus on sustainability. I've been focusing on sustainability for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I was in the financial services sector. I worked as an investor relations officer and an equity analyst. My PhD is including environmental economics, but I also have a couple of master's degrees related to specifically to environmental law and policy and environmental management and sustainability.
In my own journey to lower my carbon and plastic footprint, I started buying products from local entrepreneur Jess.
Hi, my name is Jess Georges, and I have a business called Green Road Refill. And really, the business kind of sprouted out of my own anxiety of what was happening in our environment, in our planet, and in our oceans. And the big issue for me was plastic waste. I kind of experimented one morning by waking up and taking a log of every time that I encountered plastic in my day. And I couldn't believe it. And then I went grocery shopping. And from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed, there was plastic in my life.
Jess told me about an Instagram account called Cape Cod Minimalist, and I knew I had to meet the woman behind it.
Hi, my name is Bridget Lundy. I'm an English as a second language teacher at Barnstable High School. My Instagram account, Cape Cod Minimalist, was inspired by both my boyfriend and one of my very close friends who saw the changes that I was making in my own home, trying to reduce my plastic footprint by trying to shop plastic free, trying to shop with my own reusable items. When I would go walking in the morning, I would also bring a bag with me and collect any plastic bottles that I would see lying on the ground. So this was inspired by both of them to say, you've got to do something. You've got to share this with people. At first I was a little reticent about, hesitant about doing that. But since then it seems to have sparked an interest of other people who either have never even thought about plastic at all before, or those that are actually interested in the concept of sustainability.
I'm very passionate about saving and trying to save the environment, because it was here before we were, our Earth, and I just feel like we take advantage. As a species, we are very destructive toward it. We drive around our cars and they produce a lot of chemicals in the air. We throw trash on the side of the road.
So being on Cape Cod, we are so connected to our environment. I moved here from cities. I didn't feel that deep connection to the environment. But I see it on our beaches. There's many gyres in the ocean, I think a total of 9, but the largest one is right off the coast of California, between California and Hawaii. It's called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And this is, I want to say, almost double the size of Texas. It's 9 feet deep. It's filthy, and it's destroying our mammal and our wildlife in the ocean.
So my interest in minimalizing pollution and going as zero waste as possible was inspired by my time living in Japan in 2016. I was teaching over there at a university in Osaka, and during a weekend trip, a couple of colleagues and I went to a beach, and I saw all this plastic waste that was coming upon the beaches there, and I was very confused because as a society, Japan is very, very clean and organized, and I was just completely lost and didn't understand where this was coming from. But I soon realized that that plastic waste was actually a lot of times coming from the United States, from Canada, from the UK, and making its way over to China because our recyclables were being sent over there. And I just thought, that's not right. We should be dealing with this on our own instead of sending our trash to other countries and having them have to deal with it.
Well, I'm an economist, number one, and as I continued to go through my life and my career, I started to see very clearly how what we teach in terms of economics is really what facilitates this lack of sustainability that we see around us. People truly only limit their choices and decisions based on the prices that they see around them, and they assume that the goods that are available for them to purchase are healthy and fine to use. And because of that blind trust, which in many ways is sort of like a hypocrisy actually, because I think people do understand that prices come out of exploiting costs, but making them not embedded within the price of the good they're paying for, that somehow somebody's getting paid less. And usually it's the vulnerable other people or the environment. Starting to open up that door of conversation where people can start to see that the prices that we're paying are only based on the exploitation of something. That if we truly believe in environmental and social justice, we start to need to include those impacts to other people, both currently and over time. Because otherwise, what we're only doing is subsidizing our present gratification with our future health on an individual level and on a longitudinal level with the health and well-being of people yet to come.
To me, the worst case scenario is we don't wake up on how connected we are as human beings to our environment, and how the lack of respect that we've had for several generations now in this throwaway culture is going to be irreversible.
So I really just try to take action when I can in hopes that others will follow me and we can normalize an environmentally friendly lifestyle and just make it part of a routine every day so that it's not a different lifestyle from everybody else, but that we can all sort of live an environmentally friendly lifestyle.
In the US, around 40% of food goes to waste. In 2010, that amounted to $161 billion worth of wasted food.
Well, first of all, I think when it comes to food, that's where most people start to think, oh, it costs so much to be organic or so much to be sustainable. But the reality is, most of our food goes into the trash. So more than likely we're overbuying it, this non-organic food, and eventually letting it perish and throw it away. And we feel comfortable with that because the price was low. Artificially, our prices are low because most of the food that we purchase is either commercially grown, so that means that they have lots of pesticides and other elements on them. They're not actually allowed to mature on the vine, so to speak, or they're bombarded with chemicals during their production if they're animals, so they're artificially fattened. In neither case, with all those artificial components, are they good for human health. If anyone has gone out of the United States and eaten food in another country, they know exactly what it feels like to eat something that's more organic. In the United States, we have a lot of digestive problems, which again, just in the same way as cancer has been normalized, has also been normalized. We don't think about it. We assume that it's just normal to have these gastric issues. But a lot of it has to do with our food. So going back to the idea that organic eating is so much more expensive, perhaps maybe we're over-purchasing. Maybe it's better to buy a little less and eat good quality than eat as much as we do, have obesity issues, and also have poor quality because the amount that we're purchasing is also increasing the amount of toxicity in our systems because of the way it's actually grown or manufactured.
No matter what you eat, chances are you'll be producing some amount of food waste in your home. An easy way to prevent that waste from entering the landfill is to compost it.
The first thing I really got into was composting. And composting seemed very intimidating to me at first, but it's actually quite easier than you think because you can make a compost bin out of just about everything. So I actually bought a small counter-sized compost bin, and I printed out fact sheets on what can and can't go into a compost bin, and I also put it on my fridge so guests see it when they come over and they can compost their food accordingly. It's very cheap. I spent about $15 on a little counter-sized bin, and you don't even really need that. You can use just about any kind of plastic, not that you should use plastic, but any sort of bin on your counter, and we just use a garbage bin outside to put all of our scraps from the counter out there. That was perhaps the easiest and very powerful environmental habit that we started to get into. And as a result, we produce less trash, which is wonderful, so we don't have to go to the dump as much. And we can turn it into soil for when we start a garden, so that's great.
If you live somewhere without a yard, you can actually compost indoors. And in some areas, you can bring your compost to a local farm or farmer's market. Even better, some towns offer commercial composting, or you can hire a commercial composting company to pick up your compost. But even if you're able to compost your food waste, much of the food we purchase comes packaged in materials that will soon end up in the landfill. Even the recyclable items may never be recycled, especially considering China's recent restrictions on imports of paper and plastic recyclables.
I have noticed that I can never be a zero waste household because of where I live, and our inability to access stores that provide food without wrappings and without containers. On Cape Cod, there are a few organic stores that will provide, peanuts or rice or cereal that you can just bring your own jar and fill it up. But there is not one store on Cape Cod that will provide everything you need in bulk so that you can just bring your containers and get it and go home. So it is very aggravating because I still am bringing home trash and I can't quite get around it. But what I've done a few things. I've stopped buying snacks and I will make my own snacks such as banana breads or granola bars. That will cut down on a little bit of trash. And I try to buy things in a bigger package, such as flour or sugar or things like that. What it boils down to is figuring out what you need in a week for food, not overbuying, only buying what you need and trying to make it last is the way I'm trying to work with the barrier that I have right now.
The Orleans Whole Food Store is one of the few on Cape Cod that offers unpackaged bulk goods. I met Bridget there in February of 2020.
Right now we are at Orleans Whole Food Store to do a little bit of bulk food shopping today. So you can see how I shop package-free and as zero waste as possible. They sell a lot of food in bulk, so you can get dried goods such as beans, oats, granola, and I bought from a couple of companies online, I bought these bulk food bags, which are fantastic because they have the tear weight already on there. So when you go to the checkout, the checkout employee can actually take off the weight of the bag, and you're not spending the money on the weight of the bag, basically. This has really, really helped with a ton of waste reduction. And I can't say enough about these. But again, if you don't have the money to be spending on these kind of extra things, use what you already have. Use that stuff. Use what you already have first before going out and spending more money and having all this shipping materials sent to your house. That helped me a lot. Okay, so right now I'm gonna buy some sea salt in bulk, so I don't have to buy it in any kind of packaging at all. So this is what I like to do as much as I possibly can when I buy dry food. So what I like to do with this too is just take as much as I possibly need. I think sometimes you can go a little overboard at the beginning. You just start filling your whole bag up. But just take as much as you possibly need. That's one great thing about bulk food shopping is you don't have to buy a whole huge bag, which could end up being wasted in the long run. But this at least, just get what exactly you need the food for. So that should be about it. So now all I have to do is just go to the checkout line and pay for my items.
If a bulk food store isn't convenient for you, there are other steps you can take when food shopping, like buying more produce than packaged food and choosing packaged food that comes in more recyclable containers, like glass and aluminum.
Try when you go grocery shopping to look at what's packaged in plastic and what is not. And if you can switch, I know so many of us have already switched over to our reusable bags, our grocery bags. But think about when you're in the produce section, do you put your fruit and vegetables in plastic? So, I was a crazy lady for a little while. I would put everything in one bag and then take it out, and then like the cashier was like, "Wow, you're giving me so much more extra work to do." And to me, it's worth it. I understand for other people it's a stretch. But now there's reusable produce bags. You can buy them made out of polyester, which do keep the veggies a little fresher. But there's also organic cotton and muslin and all different types of stuff. So that's what's really exciting to me is like people are innovating and looking at their daily use of plastic and trying to come up with alternatives.
And when it comes to our food's carbon footprint, purchasing from local farmers creates way fewer emissions than traditional grocery stores where the food is transported from all over the continent. But probably the most impactful thing you can do is to reduce or eliminate your consumption of meat and dairy.
We eat food that is life. We take life to maintain our life. So even if you're not thinking about it from an organic perspective, food waste should be something that morally you find reprehensible, because what you're really doing is equating that life that was taken to the price that you paid for it, which has nothing to do with its intrinsic value. Every living creature wants to live. So when you take that life, there are two things that you should take into consideration: not to waste it and eat it. The other thing is based on the fact that you've taken the ability for this creature, whether it be a plant or animal, to continue its life. Do something good with the life that you've been able to continue to live as a result of the life that you've taken to live it. So that's another portion of sustainability that's really important, and it's just a simple connecting of the dots. Because when we start to think about how much food waste we have in this country, it's really abominable that people go hungry at all.
Plastics are a focus in the sustainability movement because they're harmful for the planet all the way from manufacturing to end of life. Not only are they made of fossil fuels, most plastics are only able to be recycled a few times, and an estimated 90% of all plastics are never recycled. When littered or in a landfill, they can break down into microplastics, which find their way into our land, animals, oceans, and even our bodies.
I kind of experimented one morning by waking up and taking a log of every time that I encountered plastic in my day. And I couldn't believe it. And then I went grocery shopping. And from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed, there was plastic in my life.
Green Road Refill opened for business in 2018. Owner Jess parked her trusty Betty bus at farmers markets and sold environmentally friendly bath and cleaning products by the refill, meaning customers bring their own container and purchase as much of a product as they want.
I'm a positive person, and I believe that there is a positive and negative aspect to everything. So I don't want to say plastic is bad in all forms. I mean, there's been so many innovations, especially in the medical field, and benefits to plastic. But what really bugs me and gets me going is single use. We have become this culture of convenience, and we value that convenience over sustainability, and we don't think forward to the life of the product in our hands when we're finished with it. So I thought, well, am I going to let this drive me crazy? And I was very upset with what's going on in the current administration. And I thought, well, you know what? It's really up to me as a consumer, as a conscious consumer, to make these changes. And then I was doing more and more research, and it was really hard for me to get the products that I wanted. And I didn't want to just order things on Amazon and have them delivered, and it just seemed to not align with the mission. I literally woke up from a dream at 4:30 in the morning about a store that people could shop in where they knew their money was going towards a great cause. And everybody in this store was so happy and they left feeling great. I woke up that night and I wrote the whole business plan down. And then the very next morning, I started making that dream into reality. So how can we make this thing mobile? I'm talking like many jugs of soap, and we came up with the idea of maybe creating some type of like truck or food truck. And from there, I was just like super supported. I found my Betty bus on Craigslist, of all places, and it just like fell into like total rhythm. And within 6 months of finding the bus, we were up and running in business. We had our grand opening at the Brewster and Bloom.
In 2020, Jess had to retire Betty Bus, and she started selling her products out of Sally Sudd's shed. Her mission remains to pave the way toward a more sustainable lifestyle for her customers.
It's been quite the ride. We are refilling thousands of bottles at this point, and people are getting it and really kind of serving the community and those wonderful people that want to live a more sustainable life and have the opportunity to refill and reduce their plastic footprint. We have a menu, and it ranges everything from home cleaners up to soaps, lotions, shampoos. The important thing about my products is that they are plant-based and earth-friendly. So things that are good for you, good for the planet. So dish soap, laundry detergent, stainless steel spray, lotion, soap, shampoos, conditioners. Anything you really can think of that you would go to the grocery store or go to your CVS and buy. You know, selling these things in ounces, by the weighted ounce gives people an opportunity to try things. I'm not asking them to buy, a $20 bottle of lotion. You can try just an ounce or two. None of my lotions are $20, by the way. So the whole idea is just an ounce at a time. See if you like it, try it out.
While Jess is giving local consumers an alternative option to products packaged in plastic, Sustainable Practices has been working to ban the purchase of plastic beverage bottles by municipalities across the Cape. Their next goal is to ban plastic water bottles in retail stores. I interviewed Madhavi before one of their meetings.
Sustainable Practices is a 501c3 located here on Cape Cod. It was founded in Brewster, which is where I live. I founded it because it was my ability on an individual basis to actually make the changes that I couldn't make on a regulatory basis, because I couldn't get elected into office. I tried 4 times. I never quite made it up to the highest number to win, but I really wanted to see some changes occur, and a lot of them fundamentally have to occur because of outreach and education. I think most people do want to do the right thing. It's just that it's too easy in our society not to have the transparency to see how you actually promote the very things that you say you don't want. Sustainable Practices is my opportunity to do the outreach the way I think it's most effective, through an educational basis that then goes to a regulatory basis, because regulation fundamentally exists to codify social change. The social change precedes that regulation. What's important is that regulation, in terms of the reason for it, that's the thing that we have to teach our children. Because the regulation in of itself is limited by the written word, which means it can be reinterpreted through the lens of somebody else's reality. And the intention for what it was written for may be forgotten over time. So sustainable practices is also about context. And right now, what we focused on is a municipal plastic bottle ban in 2019. In 2020, it's the commercial single-use plastic water bottle ban, which will try to ban the sale of non-carbonated, non-flavored drinking water in single-use plastic containers of less than 1 gallon size in every single town on Cape Cod. The municipal plastic bottle ban, which we passed in 2019, basically regulated towns. So towns could no longer purchase single-use plastic bottles, beverages of any kind, and towns would no longer allow the sale of beverages in single-use plastic containers on town property, so eliminating vendors' ability to sell beverages in plastic. The commercial ban affects retail. So if the commercial ban will eliminate the ability for retail outlets, every store in a town, to sell single-use plastic water bottles where the water is non-flavored and non-carbonated and the size is less than 1 gallon. So there are two separate elements. We started off with the municipal ban because the town should not be using tax dollars to purchase something that we know is adverse to human and environmental health, and also has a greenhouse gas footprint in a time when everybody's very conscious of that. And then the second one was to eliminate commercial, because this is not a good that's necessarily positive for human consumption as a choice.
Despite postponed town meetings due to COVID-19, Sustainable Practices has succeeded in passing the municipal ban in 13 towns on the Cape. The commercial ban passed at town meeting in Brewster, Eastham, Falmouth, Harwich, Orleans, Provincetown, and Wellfleet. This year, they plan on filing the municipal ban in Bourne and Truro, and the commercial ban in 8 more towns.
One thing that we have going for us is that outside the United States, the news with regard to bans has been increasing quite a bit. We have countries, the EU, we have individual countries such as India, Bangladesh, that have imposed bans. We don't have that kind of momentum in the United States. So it's up to grassroots organizations to start putting that momentum in place, putting in that pressure to actually make those changes, and local governments are actually the conduit for that change. So what we're hoping for, more than anything, is that we become a symbol, a leader in an effort to show other countries, as well as our own country, that we do have an interest in reducing our consumption footprint on a planetary basis, and also to be an example to other communities within the United States that it doesn't take much to start this process, that a few people can make a significant difference, that sometimes you just need someone to stand up and say that they want a change, because then other people who also want that same change have somewhere to sort of coalesce. And by coalescing, you have that change potentially happening. I don't think that this is something unique in terms of just there's a few people that want to do this. I think it embodies the interests of many, many people, and the fact that we're a coastal community makes a lot of sense too.
I think what it is we're so trapped in our routines, and we're very loyal to the brands that we buy. So it's about taking a step in a direction of a little bit greener lifestyle. Like if you have a box of plastic bags at home, use them up, wash them out, use them again. It's when they deteriorate, don't go out and buy another box. Try making your own beeswax wraps. That's really inexpensive. Or you can buy the ones that I sell. Looking around what you buy and what's in your home right now and that has that most single-use plastic, and commit to one thing at a time. I'm not asking people to completely clean out their house of every plastic piece that they own. It's like, what do you use on a daily basis that is really accumulating that plastic footprint?
Especially on social media, the zero waste movement can seem expensive or even elitist. I've certainly seen plenty of pricey and trendy looking products that market as zero waste. But minimizing your waste shouldn't break the bank, and it can even be cheaper in the long run. Although I encourage buying more sustainable products that you need, a big part of sustainability, at least for me, is participating as little as possible in an economy that promotes mass production and consumption driven by profit, a system that got us into this mess in the first place.
I don't make a giant income, and neither does my husband, but I have actually found that becoming more eco-friendly is more financially accessible than I thought.
I do definitely hear, the expense of it, and I get it myself. A lot of times, when I first moved to the Cape, I was struggling with even trying to find a full-time job. So from there, trying to be able to afford things that I want to be able to continue with my lifestyle was very, very difficult, in some ways. So yes, a lot of times there are some products that are more expensive than others, especially when you're going organic. But there are certain things that you can get that are cheaper, or about the same price if you look at the packaging compared to the unpackaged.
I am on a budget. I'm on a very tight budget. So I have 2 kids, and being on the Cape and it being seasonal, I understand the struggle of surviving here. So when I did my pricing, I really kept that in mind, especially with the refill. However, I'm not selling Suave. The quality of the product is really where you're gonna find that price difference.
But the idea of price isn't so black and white. Cheaper items often come out of unethical and unsustainable manufacturing practices, and cheaply made items tend to deteriorate quickly, creating waste and forcing you to purchase more.
We think about prices, we don't necessarily think about the social justice and environmental justice implications of those prices. We have gotten into this mentality that we have to have the latest, greatest, and that's caused prices to be really cheap. So we keep on having the latest and greatest, or having to be fashionable in so many different realms, that we have excess of everything. And that excess is really one area that we could curtail, whether it be food, clothing, electronic goods, anything. We could start to think about what is it that we need as opposed to what we want.
It's very hard to let go of something that's convenient. If we're able to just kind of, go out there and buy something very quickly, it's very hard to try and think, okay, now I have to really think about being mindfully purchasing things.
Minimalism is a part of sustainability that can still be inexpensive. Instead of purchasing lots of cheap items that are low in quality, a sustainable lifestyle promotes choosing items that you really need and that are sustainably sourced, ethically made, and won't end up in a landfill in a couple of months. If you have the ability to spend more on a product that aligns with your values and will last, it's almost always worth it.
The one thing about growing older is that when you're young, you sort of want everything. And then as you get older, you realize you have to clean up your house and you have all these things in it. And you start to realize that minimalism is probably very appealing to you. I wish we could teach young people that early on, and also teach that to parents early on, that when we start to give everything on an individual basis, we create this bad habit that for the first 30 years of a person's life, they have to feel this obligation to continue to buy stuff.
If you have the financial freedom to spend a little bit more on sustainable and ethical products, I encourage you to do so when you really need those items. There are sustainable swaps for pretty much everything these days, like But you don't need to buy lots of things in order to be more sustainable. The best thing you can do is to use up what you already have. When you run out of something, you can try incorporating swaps that are inexpensive or free, like secondhand shopping, replacing single-use items with reusables, and upcycling. My favorite swap is using fabric scraps as handkerchiefs instead of tissues.
I stopped buying paper towels, and it has saved me a lot of money. And so what I do is I buy 50-cent dish towels at Goodwill, and I just reuse them, and I wash them at the end of the week, but I reuse them throughout the week, and that has it's saving the trees, it's producing less trash, and it's helping me to be more sustainable. It does take a lot of water to produce paper towels. They're expensive, they're also usually wrapped in plastic, and you use them one time and you toss them away. So it's essentially you're paying for a product that you are just throwing away, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all. I'm making my own cleaning products, which is just vinegar, water, and lemon. I installed a bidet on my toilet, which costs about $30, but it saves me on toilet paper. So I'm no longer spending that much money on toilet paper. And because I'm eating healthier and I'm making food in larger batches, I'm also saving money in that way. So although it can be intimidating, if you do your research, there's a lot of wonderful places on the internet that can teach you small little steps that are gonna save you money in the long run. It is scary at first, but you will learn, you will save money. I've saved so much money lately.
Another great tip, even if you want or need something, you don't necessarily have to buy it in order to use it.
There's an interesting phenomenon that's going on outside the United States. It's actually, Wellfleet Library is going to start working on it here, which is a library of things that you can go in and check things out and use. It's similar to the concept of a shared economy.
Many of the Cape libraries have these libraries of things, including the Brooks Free Library in Harwich and the Osterville Village Library. You can check out items like Wi-Fi hotspots, musical instruments, games, puzzles, and activity kits, and my favorite, a sewing machine.
I think that there's a tremendous opportunity right now for us to take more joy in our interpersonal relationships than wasting the time to make the money to buy things that we then have to maintain. So in terms of advice to people, perhaps maybe think about what you buy before you buy it. Go to the store a few times, check it out on the catalog a couple of times. Maybe by the third time you look at it, it won't be that appealing. Sometimes things look prettier in the store than when you think about the longevity of having to maintain them in your home.
I really got into trying to be an environmentalist because I wanted to inspire others around me. So I tried to adapt my lifestyle in a way that was affordable and easy to some degree, in hopes that people would ask, oh, I see you're doing that. Why are you doing that? And how can I do it?
I think if it's something that's important to people, if they're interested in actually taking upon this lifestyle, it is sort of a matter of getting familiar with change, because it's a huge, huge change, and the brain just gets overwhelmed by some of these big, big things. So trying to embrace the change, but slowly, not getting so overwhelmed with the enormity of the problem, but trying to take it one step at a time every single day, little things, and that change can start to grow and grow and grow into a bigger concept. The big thing I think about with waste, I just at least think in plastic in general, my vision goes to driving along the highway and seeing plastic cups and to-go containers thrown out the side of the window of somebody's car, and seeing this stuff piling up and thinking over time, over all the years, this stuff is just going to accumulate. It's not going to get any better if we don't do something. That stuff's just going to continue to almost become like a fossil in a sense for future generations. They're going to look back and that's going to be their relic from this time frame. And that's just, I don't feel right being a part of that. Methane is going to continue to be an issue in our landfills. China has banned a lot of our plastics from going to them now, so we're left with all this trash. So a lot of these municipal recycling facilities that are located around the United States are now closing. And we are now trying to figure out what to do with this stuff. So a lot of it's going to the landfill, which is going to end up producing more methane. So that's a big problem as well.
While recycling has been marketed as a major pillar of sustainability during our lifetime, the recycling industry is far from perfect. Recycling uses a lot of energy, and some materials like plastic require new material to be added in order for it to be recycled. It's also not a very profitable industry, with recycling and recyclable materials often being more expensive than using new materials. Combined with China's ban on recyclable imports, Many of our recyclables are simply ending up in the landfill.
TerraCycle is a company that was founded by Tom Zaki, who had the idea of eliminating the concept of waste. And what they do is they actually can take those hard to recycle items, whether they be a bag that comes with chia seeds or cling film, that's things that actually can't be recycled from by our municipalities. And TerraCycle will take those products and then melt them down and make them into more long-term products, usually by transforming them into park benches, playground equipment, Adirondack chairs, that sort of thing. So they take those very, very hard to recycle items that we might be throwing into our own recycling bin without realizing that they're not being recycled, but they take those things and actually transform them into more long-term, durable products that will be better for the future.
You can purchase boxes from TerraCycle that you fill up with all kinds of hard to recycle items. You send the boxes back to TerraCycle facilities where the items are sorted and processed. Then the processed material is sold to manufacturers who turn it into new products. But TerraCycle boxes are kind of pricey to buy on your own. Some stores, companies, and brands provide their own TerraCycle boxes for public use. On the Cape, you can find them at Prime Subaru in Hyannis and at the Orleans Whole Foods store.
Yeah, this is one of the boxes, the ZeroWaste boxes that TerraCycle provides. They have so many different ones, which is great, and then they're all free for us to use. But this is one that they have for the razors. So you can drop off any brand of any disposable razor, the cartridge, any kind of packaging. And at least here at Orleans Whole Foods store, they provide the box for us. I don't know any other place on the Cape that has this box. So it's great that they offer that to us here. So I keep a bag, if these are like those bags you get for like sheets. So the cartridges work. Again, also make sure that they're clean and dry. We don't want to contaminate the box, so especially making sure that they're fully dry and clean of any kind of residue. So we are at Subaru, Prime Subaru in Hyannis, and we are here today to drop off some disposable single-use items into the TerraCycle ZeroWaste boxes. So this particular location has offered to the public a ZeroWaste box that can take disposable coffee cups, iced coffee cups as well, so not just the paper kind, but also the other plastic kind. It's also for straws as well as lids. So they have one of those boxes for that. They also have another ZeroWaste box for these K-cup type things, as well as coffee creamer cups, and then also another box for disposable candy wrappers and snack wrappers. So they provide 3 of those boxes, which is fantastic. And what's very interesting is that many of these items that I mentioned can be recycled through our communities. Because they're made of mixed materials. So for example, even though this is a paper cup, it is lined on the inside with plastic, and municipalities don't have the funds or the money to purchase machines to be able to separate materials like this. However, TerraCycle does. They have the opportunity to do this, so that's why it's great that Subaru has this relationship with TerraCycle. And then they're also made into long-term durable products that can last well into the future, that are donated to communities that Subaru deals with. One example is they donate to Yosemite National Park. I saw a picture online of an Adirondack chair that was made by TerraCycle that was donated to Yosemite. So the more we do this, the less single-use items there'll be in the environment that are floating around out there. So if we can do our part, it's just great that Subaru offers this to anybody in the public that we can drop off for. So.
I'm Matthew Bonseri. I sell cars at Prime Subaru in Hyannis. Working with customers, we're always conscious of how they want to help the environment and doing their part with how Subaru likes to do their part and help the environment. So we set up the TerraCycles to be able to recycle everything that we use here, as far as snack wrappers, the coffee, hot chocolate, tea, whatever single-use things we have, we like to dispose of correctly. And of course, Subaru is always conscious of making sure it gets to the right place. So we send them off to TerraCycle, off to their headquarters, where they can do what they need to make sure it ends up in the right spot. I know customers, it goes outside of just the people here. People are stopping by because they recognize we've got the bins. So it does do a good part just outside of what we have at the dealership, but it goes out to the community because people know that they can stop by, because there are locations throughout all of Hyannis that try and do better.
So my mother gives me a lot of these cups. She collects a lot of them. She needs to use them because they're also very lightweight for her. So it's uncomfortable for her to use a reusable container. So she's doing her best to collect these and give them to me. And we've got the lids. Got plenty of lids in here, so iced coffee cups can go in, and it can be any brand at all, just making sure that they are fully clean and dry before putting them in there. I've seen Subarus that have had to take away these boxes from their area because they were being contaminated. So it's really important that they're fully dry and clean before we put them into the boxes. Got a couple more lids. I've got a couple straws in here too. So again, this one here is for the K-cups or also those creamer capsules. So you can just pop that right in there. And then we also have the candy and snack wrappers that can go in here as well. So giving these type of products that are mixed material to TerraCycle will do a much better job. So another thing to mention is that the Subaru, the Atlantic Subaru over in Bourne, they actually have a box for you to drop off your not only your snack and candy wrappers, but also pet food packaging bags. So I know we have a dog, and you get those enormous plastic bags that they come in, that the food comes in. You can bring them actually to a ZeroWaste box at the Atlantic Subaru in Bourne, and they'll be able to take care of it for you.
Although Subaru has better environmental initiatives than a lot of automakers, to me it feels a little bit like greenwashing when a company that promotes the use of fossil fuels does something environmentally friendly. But if you have the ability to take advantage of their TerraCycle boxes, it's better than bringing your waste to the dump. And if you really want to splurge, you can also buy your own TerraCycle boxes.
So this is separate from Subaru, but this is what TerraCycle offers online. It's another zero-waste box. They have plenty of different kinds, but this one is specifically for plastic packaging waste. So the type of packaging waste that we find a lot of times in the kitchen, like cling wrap, styrofoam trays, bags that seeds might come in or something like that, some extra type of plastic packaging that can't be recycled at all. They actually take this and again recycle them into more long-term durable products. So yeah, this has really come in handy over the past couple of months. I've utilized 2 of these boxes already, filled with all kinds of plastic packaging. So something that's very useful for the kitchen. If you're able to, afford it in your budget, this is definitely a useful way to be more sustainable. So.
While companies like TerraCycle are helping make up for our lack of recycling infrastructure, to me it's still a last resort. If we reduce our consumption of products that include or become waste, we won't have to worry about where that waste will go when we're done with it. What do you think will happen if we don't act now?
I think that our landfills are just going to accumulate more and more trash. People are getting better about recycling, but people still aren't recycling, so our landfills are filling up more with plastics. Not as many people are composting either, so a lot of the food is getting thrown into the garbage, and they are filling up with gases in the landfills. And so I think that we're just gonna accumulate more and more and more trash, and they're gonna fall into our oceans, and they're gonna get tangled up in our wildlife, and we're gonna be buried in it.
Everything is connected. The climate is connected, our oceans, our lands, our air, and it's really up to us to demand the changes as consumers. So part of my monthly newsletters and things like that is to give people kind of just links in ways that they can request their grocery stores to reduce their packaging and give them sources to take action on a political / policy level.
I think a lot of people are unwilling to make major changes in their lives based on the environment because they don't feel a personal responsibility to do so. But I want to challenge that.
You're 100% right when you think to yourself that why should I make any changes? I'm going to die. Why don't I maximize my pleasure? That is a mentality that we have created. That is an individualism and a self-gratification mentality, and one of entitlement that we've established. But I don't believe that that's intrinsically our purpose. I think it has more to do with our trying to bypass our purpose and keep ourselves comfortable through sensory perception as opposed through emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah, so I do hear a lot of, well, it shouldn't be up to us, the individual, because there are mega corporations that are helping to contribute a lot to climate change and our waste crisis. So I do understand that they are producing way more trash in probably 1 or 2 days than the average person is in a lifetime, and I understand that, but I always think that big changes happen in small ways. So like what I said before, I'm trying to change and adapt my lifestyle to inspire others. And if I can inspire even 5 or 10 people in a couple months to start thinking about the way that they produce trash and they bring trash into their house and they export trash from their house, if I can just get them to start thinking of ways that they could be more eco-friendly, I think that's great. Even if only a few of us are doing it, it'll catch on eventually, and it is catching on. It is becoming a lifestyle that you see a lot on the internet and a lot on social media. So I'm a believer in us small people, we can really make a change and hopefully inspire these big corporations and organizations to start thinking more eco-friendly.
I think it's a two-way street. I think that, the governments and the businesses are actually going by what we want. They're taking into account of what we are actually asking for. So if we ask these companies for more sustainable packaging, and we don't use our dollar towards the products that are selling things in plastic, then they won't actually end up selling it in plastic anymore. They'll start to go down into more sustainable route.
I don't know, there's 2 camps. There's the fix it camp and it's the forget it camp. And I'm in the fix it. And I encourage you to join me because it's when we get together as communities and come up with solutions and surround ourselves with like minds and positive energy, that's where it's going to change. There's always going to be somebody that's like, you're one person. But in my bus, there's many quotes that have that idea of like one person can make a difference. One of my favorite quotes was new this year on the back of the bus, and it's like, I can't change everything, I can't do everything, but because of that, it's not going to stop me from doing the things that I can change and the things that I can do. So, naysayers and other people with other priorities, that's always going to be there. That has always been there from the beginning. So it's really about you determining that you're not going to let that bring you down.
An important aspect of my sustainability journey has been finding people who teach, inspire, and support me. Whether they be friends, community members, YouTubers, the human aspect of our climate crisis is really what motivates me to learn and put in work. Why is it important? Why are you passionate and why are you doing this work?
Life can have whatever purpose you choose for it to have. I have found that for me, my purpose is in minimizing the pain and suffering of others, whether that be a human or an animal, but my instinct actually is drawn towards those that are the most vulnerable, which are the environment and animals in that environment. So from that perspective, given that that's what I have designated as my life purpose, to actually try to enhance the quality of life of others and leave a legacy of that type of mentality, that's why this is important.
And it's a daily struggle. Every human nature is to go from positive to negative, positive to negative. There's a little bit of hesitation, and I still have it myself, on this fear of rocking the boat and creating waves. Everything from like an anxiety of like, oh my God, I'm bringing my own mug to the coffee place. I hope this is a cool coffee place. So, the worst thing that's gonna happen is they say, no, I can't help you, or give you a dirty look when you bring your own little produce bag or whatever. So I encourage you, and I'm still working on it myself, is to set the example, even though sometimes it might be a little uncomfortable. It's out of my comfort zone sometimes. So I encourage you as a conscious consumer, as a concerned citizen and a steward of our world, to set the example. Make the change, and also, if you can and you have time and energy, take the cause up. Do something that makes you know that you're taking that extra step. That's what it's about.
I really just want to let people know out there how it's so much easier to adopt an eco-friendly lifestyle than you think, and it is more financially accessible than you think. And at the end of the day, it's very satisfying to know that I'm really trying my best not to leave a big carbon footprint on this earth, and that I have helped other people realize that they too can start composting or start sorting their trash better.
My biggest belief is that we can do what we can in our own worlds. That's really, we can change ourselves in any kind of problem that's out there. We have to just take it upon ourselves to sort of turn inwards and look at those issues and say, what can I do from my end? And that's what I'm trying to do, is to try and every day learn and grow about how I can actually reduce my own waste, and doing it from my own angle.
I am encouraged. My business is about positivity, because if we don't have hope, we don't have anything.
We only have one Earth, and we are ruining it right now, and we need to do whatever we can to leave this place for our children and our grandchildren. We need to leave it a beautiful and livable place.
I've tried to make this series accessible and encouraging without putting the blame on individuals. But honestly, I'm scared, and I think you should be too. If we don't minimize our production, consumption, and energy use, even green stuff, it'll be extremely difficult to meet our climate goals. And even if we do meet them, there's no guarantee that we'll be able to avoid a climate disaster in the years and generations to come. If you don't think you've been affected by climate change already, you will soon. Many communities, including people of color, indigenous communities, and low-income people, are already being disproportionately affected. In addition to making changes in your personal life, I encourage you to advocate for massive, progressive changes in every level of government and in the private sector. I've included just a few ways you can help in the description of this video. Here's the message I want you to take away. Right now, our society prioritizes financial gain and personal convenience over environmental responsibility. It's not an easy task, but I urge you to combat that mindset by prioritizing the environment in every aspect of your life that you possibly can. We need to fight for the environment like our lives depend on it, because they do.